Most men don't realize this until it's way too late. The moment you start saying yes just to maintain peace, you're no longer a partner. You become a background character in your own relationship. Women don't pull away because you're not nice enough. They pull away because your niceness became predictable, expected, and then completely invisible. Today, I'm going to show you the psychological rule behind why over-agreeable men disappear in a woman's mind, and how to break this pattern before it completely destroys your self-respect. Here is what nobody tells you. A man who says yes too often slowly erases himself. Not because women are evil, not because modern dating is broken. It's because agreement without boundaries does not register as value. It registers as low risk, low intensity, low presence. And in relationships, low presence equals low attraction. This video is the rulebook most men never get, not the sanitized version you hear everywhere else. This is the forbidden version, the one that explains exactly why women lose interest in the men who give too much. Let's break this down with brutal clarity. First, certainty kills curiosity. If she always knows your answer, if she can predict your every response, if she knows you'll always bend, adjust, approve, and comply, you stop being a man she interacts with. You become the environment she moves through. Humans simply don't value what feels guaranteed. Second, yes men create emotional flatlines. A relationship is a dynamic system. Attraction spikes when there's tension, disagreement, boundaries, conviction, and differences. When everything is yes, there is no tension, no contrast, no shape, no leadership. And third, saying yes becomes a survival strategy. Men who over-agree aren't usually doing it out of pure generosity. They're doing it out of fear. Fear of conflict, fear of upsetting her, fear of losing her, fear of being alone. But here is the paradox. The behaviors you use to keep her are the exact behaviors that make her drift away. Most men learn to overgive for one of three reasons. The first is childhood conditioning. Maybe you grew up in a home where keeping the peace was survival. You learned to disappear, to avoid conflict, to make yourself smaller just to get by. You didn't learn partnership. You learned compliance. And you carried that into your adult relationships. The second reason is past rejection trauma. A man who's been burned, betrayed, or blindsided in previous relationships often builds a coping mechanism. He thinks, maybe if I'm perfect this time, she won't leave. So you overcorrect. You erase your own needs. You become agreeable to the point of emotional self-erasure, hoping it will protect you from getting hurt again. And the third reason is modern dating brainwashing. The culture tells men, be a gentleman, be nice, be accommodating, be supportive. And those are good things. But it never warns you about the threshold where these virtues turn into liabilities. Women don't want a servant. They want a man with a spine. A man who can say yes with intention and no with conviction. When you say yes too much, three critical shifts happen inside her psychology. First, she stops trusting your yes. Your agreement loses its weight because it's always automatic. It stops feeling like genuine consent. It starts feeling like a habit, a default setting. Women respect decisions that come from a man's center, not from his fear. Second, she loses polarity. Polarity, that magnetic pull between masculine and feminine energy, comes from difference. Feminine energy cannot feel polarity with a man who has no edge. If she is always the one leading emotionally, always the one creating contrast if you fold at every single point of friction. She stops seeing you as a man she can lean into. The dynamic gets thrown off. And third, she feels the absence of your identity. A man without boundaries is not peaceful. He is hollow. Women don't pull away because you're too kind. They pull away because they can't feel you asterisk. A woman needs to sense your presence, your stance, your truth. Invisible men cannot be loved deeply. They can only be tolerated. There's a pattern that shows up every single time a man becomes over-agreeable. It's almost like clockwork. Step 1. She stops sharing her deeper emotions. Not because she's hiding things, but because she subconsciously feels you can't hold emotional weight. She senses your foundation is shaky. Step 2. She tests you. Women test for one primary reason, to confirm whether you're reacting from a place of strength or from a place of fear. If your yes consistently comes from fear, she knows, she feels it. Step 3. She becomes less affectionate. Her body responds to leadership and strength. If your presence becomes passive and compliant, her chemistry adapts. That physical spark starts to fade. Step 4. She starts looking elsewhere for polarity. This doesn't necessarily mean another man. It could be anything that brings intensity, challenge, or direction into her life. A new demanding hobby, a career change, anything that fills the void of intensity that's missing in the relationship. And finally, step 5. You feel blindsided. Because in your mind you did everything right. You were supportive. You were present. You were committed. But commitment without boundaries feels like obsession. And obsession without a solid identity feels like emptiness. So what's the solution? The goal is not to swing to the opposite extreme and become a selfish jerk. That's not the answer. The goal is centered presence. Here's the framework to get there. First, replace your automatic yes with an intentional pause. Before you agree to something, ask yourself, do I actually want this? If I say yes, am I betraying myself in some small way? A 2 to 3 second pause before you respond is leadership, not hesitation. It shows you're considering it, not just complying. Second, use the boundary sentence. It's a simple line that reestablishes your presence. Something like, I want to do what's best for both of us, not just what's easiest in the moment. This instantly shifts the dynamic out of compliance and into partnership. Third, reintroduce no as a masculine signal. Not rude, not reactive, not emotional, but firm and clear. Clarity is attractive. Honesty is stabilizing. A well-placed, calm no is more respectable than 1,000 weak yeses. Fourth, rebuild your identity outside of the relationship. Men who have no external mission overgive because the relationship becomes their entire source of meaning and validation. Get back into your center, your goals, your fitness routine, your discipline, your own space. A man with a mission doesn't need to be overly agreeable. He is already grounded in his own purpose. And fifth, recreate healthy tension. I'm not talking about arguments or chaos. I'm talking about polarity. Have an opinion, have a preference, have a direction. Don't be afraid to lead. Women do not respect men who disappear their own individuality just to keep the peace. Let me leave you with this truth. Being agreeable doesn't make you lovable. Being self-abandoning doesn't make you secure. Being endlessly available doesn't make you chosen. You don't earn respect by removing yourself from the equation. You earn it by showing up fully, clearly, and unapologetically. Say yes when it aligns with your center. Say no when it protects your identity. And never apologize for having a backbone, because once you become invisible in her eyes, it's almost impossible to come back. But if you rebuild your boundaries, if you reclaim your presence, if you step back into yourself, you don't just regain her respect. You become unforgettable. If you're ready to break the cycle of overgiving and rebuild your masculine center, subscribe to the channel. The next video goes even deeper into the one pattern women will never tell you about, but always respond to. Thanks for watching.